to be made fun of was angry. On the other hand, there was no harm in what Carly said. We use commas naturally when we speak, but be careful not to use them instead of full stops in sentences. Whether you use double inverted commas or single ones in your direct speech, be consistent.
Okay, that's very good, Aman. Good reading there, by the way. Well done. So we were looking at the fact that where do we actually use commas? So this text is not just about using commas, it's about using various punctuation within our work, all right? So where do we actually use commas though? You know, in the world that we live in right now, there are so many people, so many students, in fact, your age students, who actually don't use correct punctuation. And one of the reasons why the correct punctuation is not used as well as it should be is just down to the fact that everybody is texting and chatting on Facebook Messenger or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever it might be in terms of social media. So when people talk on social media, especially young people, they don't tend to use punctuation because they don't have time to use punctuation. All right? I mean, and that's one of the reasons why punctuation became compulsory at GCSE level only a couple of years ago, in fact, whereby there are some extra marks allocated for punctuation because they got to the stage where teachers and parents as well were complaining that young people's grammar and punctuation was actually going downhill. Some of the results that were coming out weren't as high as they were because of social media that we have now. So commas have a variety of usage, remember? So you can use commas in lists. So if you're making a list, use commas. They can be made in direct speech as well. So Elaine was curious about the previous evening and asked, where did you get to? Okay, so in between direct speech. You can also use commas naturally when you speak. So it doesn't have to be just writing. We kind of assume that commas are only used when we're writing. No, not really. Now, when we're talking, we're not actually putting a comma in action. But when we're having a slight pause during our speech, that's when the comma actually comes in. All right? So when you talk, you don't just carry on talking without taking a pause or a quick 2-second break. But when you do take that 2 or 3 second break, we assume that's where the comma goes. And now I'm talking about direct speech, like me talking right now. All right, full stop. So that's what I mean by that. So let's have a look at speech marks. And let's get Rachel. Rachel, do you want to have a read of just speech marks on the bottom left-hand side? Have a go at that.
Speech. There are 4 rules of setting out speech. Use inverted commas for the word spoken. Catherine said, I haven't seen you in ages. Direct speech must be separated from the rest of the writing by a punctuation mark. See comma in the example above. 3. Remember to use a capital letter when you begin the direct speech. Catherine said, it's ages since I last saw you. Each time you introduce a new speaker, begin a new line and a new indent. That is, begin the speech of your new speaker 3 letter spaces to the right of the margin.
Okay, good, Rachel. So in terms of speech marks, there are 4 rules that you need to know. Number 1 is use inverted commas for the words spoken. Catherine said, I have seen you. I haven't seen you in ages. All right, let me just mute you there, Rachel. Okay, so this is important because a lot of students get mixed up with this. So number 1, use inverted commas for the words spoken. Catherine said, I haven't seen you in ages. Now look, can you see the speech marks there? Now we don't have 66 and 99. We've only got 6 and a 9, and we've got speech in the middle. All right, so students get confused. Do I use 6 and a 9? or do I use 66 and 99? Well, we're going to come to that in 1 second. But if you're writing inverted commas or a speech in this sense, then you're always going to write 6 and 9, whether you're typing or whether you're writing. And I'll come to the 66 and 99 in a second. Now, for part 2, in terms of direct speech, must be separated from the rest of the writing by a punctuation mark. And then you can use a comma for that as well, which we've already covered, all right? And number 3, remember to use a capital letter when you begin the direct speech. So Catherine said, can you see at the beginning of the speech, it's a capital letter. Now this is another thing that students actually are not aware of a lot of the times. And when they do start direct speech in a piece of writing, it's always a small I as opposed to a capital letter at the beginning. That's another thing. Part 4. Each time you introduce a new speaker, begin a new line and an indent. Okay, what's the meaning of an indent? Okay, let's say, for example, these are my paragraphs, right? These are my paragraphs. Now, when I introduce a new speaker, I will start halfway writing from here. Can you see that? Rachel? Yeah? So can you see that? Just there. When I introduce a new speaker in my piece of writing, I will not start at the beginning of the margin. I will start halfway in the middle of the page. And that's what we call an indent. An indent also signifies that you are starting a new paragraph. All right? So either you can start a new paragraph, a new line, or you can just do an indent. That signifies that you are starting a new paragraph. All right? Now, I was coming back to this before. Now, why do you use 6 and a 9 and not 66 and 99? This is thirsty work. Okay, so let's say, for example, Catherine said, I haven't seen you in ages. Let's say Rachel said that Catherine said, I haven't seen you in ages. Now, because I'm using 2 personalities now within the writing, when I use 2 personalities in the writing, that means you have to use 66 and 99. So let me just clarify that one more time. I'll go through it again later, but this is important to take note. Catherine said, I haven't seen you in ages, all right? So I haven't seen you in ages is what Catherine is saying, and it's only going to have a 6 and a 9. So start off the inverted commas with just a 6 and a 9 at the end. But Rachel says that Catherine said, I haven't seen you in ages, because there are 2 people involved now, because Rachel is quoting Catherine, you will have a double apostrophe on the side, 66 and 99 at the end, inverted commas. I hope that makes sense. All right, this is very important. Please note this down. If it's the first time you just learned this. Okay, so let's go on to the next section on the top right hand side. Let's get Dan to do a little bit of reading now. Let's go to Dan. Hi Dan, can you read the section on question marks on the top right hand side?
Yeah. These are inverted commas or words or phrases cited from text. Stick with single inverted commas for speech and double inverted commas for speech within speech. For instance, Jane shouted at her husband in the next room, "Your mother phoned and she said, 'When are you going to visit me?' Colin, I thought that you called in on her last week." Remember to close them. To show that you are ending a quotation, place the final full stop on the outside of an inverted comma, as with the following example. In My Fair Lady, Eliza Doolittle shows her independence from Professor Higgins when she says, "I can do without you."
Okay, Dan, thank you very much. Okay, Dan, what did you learn about the fact that you learn you put in a double inverted comma as opposed to a single?
A double inverted comma is when you've got speech and like a speech within speech, and
Yeah.
single
Yeah.
comma.
So that's right. So I'm just going to show you another example there. So we've just come to that example that I was actually explaining before. For example, Jane shouted to her husband in the next room, "Your mother phoned and she said," okay, so when Jane's speaking, it's a single inverted comma. But because she's quoting the mother, it becomes double. "When are you going to visit me?" That's what the mother says. Because Jane is quoting her husband's mother, can you see there are two people involved now? And that's exactly when we have a double inverted comma. All right. Thank you for that. And let's have one last person to read the last bit at the end. Let's go for Lababa.
Yeah.
Hi, Lababa, are you okay?
Yes.
Good. Did you understand that bit? Because you signed in a few minutes late, did you understand that bit about double inverted comma and single inverted comma?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. Have a read of title marks on the bottom right-hand side, please.
In secondary schools, inverted commas are used to signify book titles, stories, newspapers, magazines, television programs, movies, or shows. For example, My Fair Lady is the title of the musical or 1964 film version of the play Pygmalion. In your writing, always use title marks to show the difference between eponymous characters and the names of the plays and novels in which they appear. Macbeth is a character, whereas Macbeth is a play. Eponymous characters share their name with the titles of the text. The convention or accepted rule for titles in universities is to underline them. Hamlet and Macbeth. The main thing is to remain consistent in your method of identifying titles. Note that if you use italics for titles, then this is acceptable for printed work. Notice that in much of the book, italics have been used for the titles of texts and films.
Good. So title marks, right? In secondary schools, inverted commas are used to signify book titles, stories, newspapers, magazines, television programs, movies, shows, and so on and so on. So title marks always are in capital letters. It's actually good to put them in capital letters. Have a look at this. All right, this is a musical. It's like a play in a theatre. Can you see that the M and the F and the L, all three words, start with a capital letter? All right. So when you have title marks or a title, you can actually put capital letters for every single letter, for every single word at the beginning. Okay. Sometimes people put capital letters on their title marks because they want the words to look big and meaningful, so that people can actually read it properly. But they can actually, formally in English, they can actually use it as well. All right, so well done. So that was a quick recap of what you had done before. So good. And we're just going to go through the homework now and answer some of the questions. So let's go through these one by one. Okay, so let's go through these one by one. Identify the uses for commas and choose the correct option. So what do you think is the use for our commas? Why do we actually use them? Let's go to Danielle for the first contribution for tonight.
C.
And read it out, Daniel.
Commas are used to mark off a list and phrases within a sentence. They are also used within direct speech.
Good. Well done, Daniel. Thank you very much. So commas are used to mark off a list, number one. Number two, a phrase within a sentence. You remember what a phrase is? A phrase are only a few words. That's the meaning of the word phrase within a sentence. And they are also used within direct speech as well. Okay, which one of the following sentences needs an exclamation mark? Which one of the following sentences needs an exclamation mark? So let's have a look at the 4 examples that we got here. Which one would we think? Let's go to Mr. Bogo. Have a go at this.
I think it would be D.
And why do you think it would be D that needs an exclamation mark?
How do I say this?
Say that again, brother. Sorry.
I think because it sounds like something like I can't really explain it.
Do you mean it's like a surprise situation?
Yes, like that.
Yeah. Okay, so like a shock or a surprise situation is where we actually stick an exclamation mark at the end. So I would agree with you, Bogo. I would go with that. We'll say good heavens will be the best one to use here. Good. Do you need a question mark for indirect or reported speech? Do you need a question mark for direct or indirect, or reported speech? Yes or no? Simple question. Do you need a question mark for indirect or reported speech? You can have a look in the text. Take a few seconds out. Do we need a question mark for indirect or reported speech? What do we think? Hi, Amir.
Hello?
Okay, Fatma, you right?
Yeah, I'm fine.
How you doing? What do you think?
I think no.
Why do you think?
Because indirect speech, you don't. I don't know how to explain it, but
What's reported speech and indirect speech?
it's speech that doesn't require quotation marks. I mean, speech marks.
Yeah, so if I said Fatma said that she was going to the park. Fatima said that she was going to the park. What kind of speech is that? So it's like reported speech, right? Indirect speech,
Yeah.
because I'm talking about you saying something. So in that context, if it was reported speech, so if I said Fatma said, would you like to go to the park? Would we need a question mark? No.
No.
Why? Because it's indirect and reported speech. So you don't have to have a question mark. Okay?
Okay.
Did you know that before?
Yeah, I did. I just don't know how to explain it.
Okay, good. Good stuff. Thank you, Fatma. So the answer is no in this case. Okay. Which one of the following sentences uses all 4 rules for setting out speech? Which one of the following sentences uses all the 4 rules for setting out the speech? So I'm looking for all 4 rules within the speech itself. What do you think? Okay, you can pop the answers into the chat box as well for me. This way I know you know what you're doing. Hello, Amir, can you hear me?
Yeah.
How you doing?
Good.
Good stuff. Have you come to a conclusion yet? Which sentence here, A, B, C, or D, uses pretty much all 4 different types of speech here.
B.
B? Or let's go to B quickly. Let's see what's B. Why B, Mia?
Because I looked at all the other sentences, and the first one doesn't have a full stop at the end of the sentence, so that can't be the right answer. I looked at B, and I couldn't find anything wrong, but just in case, I went to C. C doesn't have a capital letter on when he talks, where he says, "Where did the thief go?" He didn't have a capital letter, so it can't be C. And D, there's also a 9 on the end of "yelled his father," which shouldn't be there, so it can't be D. So by process of elimination, I just use B.
Yeah, so Phil said B, P is a capital letter. Phil said comma, and that's where the quotation starts, inverted comma. And we have the first letter of the after the inverted comma being a capital, so that's one clue. Buy the latest team shirt, and you've got full stop there and end of inverted comma. And then you've got a beginning of a second. By the way, the oblique, you know the oblique, the dash that you can see there, that shouldn't be there, but I put it there just to make sure that you realize that there are 2 different speeches there. So we've got after the oblique or the dash, we have an inverted comma, and then we have another capital letter beginning with I. So it is too expensive, comma. The quotation ends, said Paul, and a full stop. So B is the correct answer. That's where all the 4 rules are being applied. Well done. Okay, so the next one, why do you need to use, what do you need to use when you write out the title of a film, book, story, etc.? So what do you need to use when you write out the title of a film, book, or story? What do you need to use? Okay, Fatma and Amir, well done. What do we actually need to use when we talk about a film, a book, a story, or a particular title in this case? So we're looking at A, which is title marks, underlining, or italics, because it's basically the heading. All right, so when we write about a particular movie name, then we will put title marks, which means that we'll put capital letters at the beginning of all the words. All right, just like this particular example that we saw before of My Fair Lady. Can you see that? All right, that's what we call by title marks, because you have a capital letter at the beginning of all the 3 words. That's what we mean by title marks in this case. Okay, let's go on to the next one. So for each of the sentences below, choose the one that is correctly punctuated. So be careful with this. I'm just going to zoom this in for you. So which sentence here is correctly punctuated? Now I want every single person to answer this question for me, please. Take your time. Well done, Boga. You're the first one to get that right. Good. Fatma, you too. Rachel. Dan, good. Have a thorough look. Aman, Danielle. Have a deep look to this question. Choose the one that is punctuated correctly. Okay, let's go to Danielle for this one. Hi, Danielle, what do you think?
I thought it was A, but I'm not sure.
Are you having second thoughts?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say A is correct, because the mayor of Casterbridge, which is in speech marks, inverted commas, is when you're talking, or the person's talking, is one of my favorite books, right? The Mayor of Casterbridge is one of my favorite books, so A will be actually correct. And why does it have the inverted commas as well? Because you're actually including one of the titles of the books or the novels, right? Now, if you look at this, can you see that because you've got title marks here, that they begin with capital letters. Now, the reason why there is capital letter, because it's the first word of the sentence. The mayor of Casterbridge. Now, of is not in capital letters because of is basically a small word. We don't need it to be a capital letter. All right. So it will be A, which is correct. And the next one, for each of the sentences below, choose the one that is correctly punctuated. Again, do exactly the same thing. Let me zoom this in. Have another look. Okay, so when we talk about BBC, we're talking about the British Broadcast Corporation, which is the BBC channel, BBC on TV. Okay, so Daniel, you got that one right? Okay, Fatma, that's correct. Bogo, that's fine, good. Let's go to Aman for this one.
Hello.
Hi Aman, what do you think?
I thought it would be C. The BBC did a very good adaptation of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice recently.
And why do you think that this C is punctuated correctly as opposed to all the others?
Number one is because there's an apostrophe, or a possessive apostrophe, meaning that it belongs to Jane Austen, which two of the answers don't have. And
what do you mean by possessive? Hold on a second, Aman. What do you mean by possessive apostrophe? Where is possessive apostrophe?
Where Jane Austen's name is.
But that's not possessive apostrophe because the apostrophe is before the S, not after the S.
What's it called again?
So can you see here that, you know, the apostrophe, it's before the S, it's not after the S. So when the apostrophe goes after the S, that's possessive apostrophe.
Okay.
So that's just a normal apostrophe.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
Okay.
it has that, and also because of the BBC is spelled just BBC and not
So
spelled
title marks, yes, okay. Yeah. So because BBC is like an abbreviation of British Broadcasting Association, that's the reason why it's got capital letters. The BBC did a very good adaptation of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, and if you can see Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, which is in inverted commas, and they're both in capital P's as well, and also you got a full stop at the end as well. So good, well done. So C is correct for this. Okay, next question. For each of the sentences below, choose the one that is punctuated correctly again. Let's have a look at this one now. Nobody knows where the dog comes from. Where the word dog comes from, apologies. Let's go to Lababa for this one.
Is it B?
And why do you think it's B, Lababa?
Because it has like apostrophes around the dog.
Okay. Yeah, good. So it has a capital letter and it has apostrophe around the dog, and it also has a full stop at the end, and nobody knows where the word dog comes from. Because you're quoting the word, and what's the word? It's dog. And that's the reason why when you're quoting the word dog, it's in inverted commas. Whereas if you had said nobody knows where the dog comes from, then you wouldn't need the dog in inverted commas there, okay? So good. So we're going to go for B in this case. Okay, so let's see which one is punctuated correctly here. Question number 9. About 10 minutes to go, so we'll shoot through this. Well done, Amir. Aman, just check that one again, please, for me, if you don't mind. Just double check that one, please. Okay, I'll go through this one myself. It's a little bit tricky, this one. So which one is being punctuated correctly? In this sense, I would go for D. Why would I go for D? Because the line alas starts with a capital there. Alas, poor Yorick. I knew him. Horatio from Hamlet is often misquoted. So this is actually a quotation from a Shakespeare play, which is Hamlet. And alas, obviously, can you see that word? Alas, there's a certain surprise there, and there's a quotation mark. Sorry, there's the exclamation mark at the end. And then the quotation still continues, poor Yorick, with another exclamation mark at the end. I knew him, with a comma, Horatio, full stop, and that's where the quotation finishes here. From Hamlet is often misquoted. So they're very close to each other. And because you probably don't recognize the language very well in this case, because it's literature, it'll be D. It's a good example as well. Okay, so question number 10, have a look at this one. All right, you got a couple of quotations here, so be careful with this. Okay, Aman, well done with this one. Good. Good, Amir. Good stuff. Bogo, kindly just give me an answer in the chat box as well. Oh, it's good, Fatima. Good, Dan. Danielle, just check one more time with that one. One more time, please. Okay, so in this case, it's going to be D, the first sentence of Dickens. Yeah, Danielle, thank you. You got that one right. The first sentence of Dickens, Bleak House. And this is what Aman was talking about before in terms of possessive apostrophe. Possessive apostrophe means the apostrophe goes after the S and not before the S. What does possessive apostrophe mean? It means that the first sentence of Dickens' Bleak House is a single word, November. So a possessive apostrophe in this case will mean that we're talking about Dickens. All right? So all the sentences within Dickens, we're only looking at the first sentence. And because we're referring to all the sentences or majority of the sentences or some of the sentences, that means more than one, and there's possession there. So if there's a plural, if there's more than one, you put the apostrophe after the S and not before the S. So D will be the correct one in this case. All right, some of you might be surprised as to how much punctuation you probably didn't know in the first instance until now. That's one of the reasons why we're doing this topic in terms of punctuation. So the sentence shown below has an error involving punctuation. Which sentence from the options is the corrected form of this sentence? So you see this sentence within the green box. There are some errors in there, and you need to classify which one is the correct one. Which out of the four options will be the correct punctuated sentence? I'll give you a few seconds to go through this one. Dan, that's right. Amir, that's right, yeah. Bogo, just check one more time, please. Check one more time. When you're quoting, remember you just put inverted commas there as well when there's a quotation. So A has no quotation. So the opening line of Tennyson's poem, "The eagle is very striking," full stop. He clasps the crag with the crooked hands. And because he clasps the crag with crooked hands is a quotation from the text, it has to be in inverted commas. So Rachel, well done, second time round. So C is the correct answer. All right, so you see the quotation because he's quoting from the book towards the end, and that will have a quotation. So question 12, 3 more questions to go. Which sentence from the options is a corrected form? So there's a mistake within the orange box, and we need to work out what the corrected sentence should be. Yeah, that was a quick one, Aman, well done. Yeah, Bogo, good. Dan and Rachel, well done. Okay, so most of you got this one right. A is correct. The most noticeable thing about it is the use of the word hands, where the reader might have expected something like talons or claws. So the 3 quotes, hands, talons, or claws, all 3 of them have inverted commas in there, and that's why A is going to be correct. Let's do the same thing here. Let's go to Lababa for this one. Hi, Lababa, how did you find this one?
Is it D?
It is indeed. Well done. So the second thing that makes this line striking is the alliteration on the letter C. So because we're quoting the letter C, it's in inverted commas, and that's correct. Well done, Lababa. Let's do the same here. We've got 2 more questions left. All right, so in this case, the answer is going to be C, because what we're doing is, so this is a quotation that starts from there. Sorry, am I doing the right one here? 1 second, sorry, I got the wrong answer here. Bear with me. It's not C actually, it's B. Apologies, I read the wrong statement there. So the repeated C's give the line a harsh sound, which is in keeping with the eagle's harsh environment. So in this case, you've got an apostrophe there in the middle between C's, all right? And that's what I was looking for mostly there in that question. And finally, the last one. Have a look at this. So I would like 3 hamburgers, a cheeseburger, a large serving of fries, and a coffee. There's one thing in particular missing here. What's it going to be? Especially when we have apostrophes. Okay, so when we make a list, then we obviously need commas. So in this case, I would like 3 hamburgers, comma, a cheeseburger, comma, a large serving of fries, and a coffee. Remember, before and, you do not put a comma. So what I was looking for here was the 2 missing commas. So D is the correct answer. Okay, well done. Hang on, everybody. Nobody leave just yet. Bear with me. Just wanted to quickly talk to a few people at the end of class, if you don't mind. Bogo, if you can just hang on. Fatima, Ashraf, and Lubaba, if you could just, all 3 of you, just bear with me. I just want to do a quick catch-up call with you. All right, just 2 minutes. And if anybody else wants to stay behind because they want to ask me a question, then feel free, no issue at all. All right. Otherwise, I will see you very soon, hopefully on Thursday. All right, I'm just going to put some homework for you tonight. Not much, it's just a maths piece, and it has to be done by Wednesday evening, and I'll just email your parents later on tonight. Okay? Thank you very much. The rest of you can go. If you want to stay around for ask me a couple of questions, and by all means, feel free. Thank you, Lubaba, Boko, and Fatma, please. Thank you very much. Okay, so let me just